Hi, I'm Georgia Taylor-Brown and I am the current World Triathlon Champion for 2020 and you are listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Endure IQ, online education for long course triathlon, founded by prior featured guest of the show, Dr. Dan Plews, on episode 213, Heat Training and Acclimation for the Endurance Athlete, and of course, brought to you by Pogo Physio. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest inspiration and information designed to help you perform at your physical best. Of course, we do this across a range of different episodes: coaches' corners, interest editions, expert editions, and featured performers. And we've been on an expert edition roll. So it's time to mix things up with a featured performer. And talking about a roll, we have been on a roll with British-based guests. And today's featured performer, current World 2020 Triathlon Series Champion, Georgia Taylor-Brown, keeps that British roll going. Last week on an expert edition, you heard part 2 of my conversation with Ollie Williamson on all things navigating triathlon and endurance injuries. And incidentally, Ollie Williamson is Georgia Taylor-Brown's physiotherapist, based out of the English Institute of Sport / British Triathlon. By way of bio, Georgia Taylor-Brown took out the recent World Triathlon Series one-day championship held in Rotterdam, being crowned the 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion. In 2012, Georgia announced her talent with a win in the Junior World Duathlon Championships in Nancy. Georgia then burst onto the World Triathlon scene in 2017, winning the Madrid World Cup by almost a minute with an incredible run off the bike, before finishing 4th in the Under-23 World Championships, also at Rotterdam that year. And then in 2018 and 2019, Georgia finished 3rd overall in the World Triathlon Series rankings across those respective years. In addition, Georgia has picked up multiple podiums across World Triathlon Series races, and in 2019 at the Tokyo Olympic test event, crossed the line with fellow British compatriot Jess Liam in a victory at the time that was later disputed on a technicality. So heading into Tokyo 2021, Georgia Taylor-Brown sure is a name to be watching. And during today's conversation, Georgia takes us through her highs, lows and learnings, including Georgia's top 3 tips for female endurance athletes, navigating the junior years with success in sport, listening to our bodies and enjoying ourselves along the way. Here is my conversation with this week's featured performer, 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion, Georgia Taylor-Brown. Georgia Taylor-Brown, current 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we theme this show, Georgia, the highs, lows and learnings. And let's start. You've come off some really good form in what has been a really weird and bizarre year since you were here in Australia in February for what should have been a heat acclimation camp for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games, all the way through to your World Champs success in Hamburg. So how do you reconcile the emotions of such a turbulent year? Talk about the highs and lows.
It's been a strange year. Like you said, we started in Australia in February and March. We did a really good block of training there, so I was ready to hit the year, ready to hit Abu Dhabi. And then we started to hear things that the season was going to be a bit different, and then Abu Dhabi might get cancelled, and then eventually it did get cancelled. But I didn't see it going on for this long, and I didn't think that all the races were going to get cancelled. And I sort of got back to the UK after racing Mooloolaba World Cup. Came second there, so I thought, right, it's going really well. The training's obviously gone really well. I was happy with everything that I'd put in. And then, got back, and that's when all the races started getting cancelled, postponed. Leeds, they cancelled, then they postponed the Olympics. And you just kind of think, what is all this training for? What was the point in it? And it's all wasted now, and we're not even going to get to race. And then it sort of took me a few days where there was a lot of emotions, and then I kind of got my head around it and thought, everyone's in the same position right now. We've all just got to get through it. We'll just come up with a different plan, and we'll just start again next year. So that's kind of where we went with it. We went back to some sort of winter training. And then I just kind of plugged away, and we were hearing rumours of races maybe being on, but I wasn't really focusing on that, and I wasn't aiming for those races at all. I think the races in the end, like Hamburg and Calvary, I kind of say they were sort of a mock race, like a mock exam. You go into it and you try and do as little revision as possible to see what the outcome is going to be. Whereas, so we were going into Hamburg having done a lot of training as in miles, but I didn't do any specific training for racing like I usually would. I didn't really do any of that top end speed work. It was interesting to see how that worked out. And obviously it worked out quite well. I got my miles in, and I think it just made me a lot stronger. But I wasn't particularly very fast. But it was good to take a different approach to a race.
You must have taken a lot of confidence, though, heading into a race as a mock exam. And I heard you state that, your expectations weren't sky high for Hamburg, yet you came away with the win. So it must give you, obviously it was, a different event. There were countries locked down, and, Australasia, Australia, New Zealand not able to travel. But you still could only race the very strong field that was on the start line. So it must have given you a bit of a big confidence boost, like particularly heading into next year. Yeah,
I guess it did. I think it's actually taken me until probably now to really be proud of what I did that day. I think at first it was a bit of a shock, and just coming into the finishing chute as well, they were saying, I just remember them shouting, and here's your new 2020 world champion. And I just sort of shook my head. I was like, I'm not. Like, in my head, it wasn't a world champs because it was very different. It was a sprint for starters. So we wouldn't usually do that. We'd usually have an Olympic distance. And then, like you said, like Australia, New Zealand, there was a lot of athletes that couldn't make it. But then I think over the last few weeks, I've kind of realised, well, to be honest, I won that day. I was the athlete that managed to get my head down during lockdown period, and I did my training still, and I managed it fairly well. And obviously it's got me to world champion title. But I don't know. It was a weird thing to kind of call myself a world champ after that. And after that, I said to Katie, I said, I'm not really world champ though. You're still the world champ. And she sent me quite a nice message after the race, and just said, I know you're being lovely, but you need to appreciate what you've just achieved, and you were the one on top today, and you need to take that. And so I said, okay, I'll take it if I have to.
and referring there to Katie Zafiris, 2019 World Triathlon Series Champion, former featured guest. So Katie gave you the perspective you needed to absorb the win and enjoy it. And then from there, you went off to another podium in Calvary just a week or two later, and rounded out your season before, in your words, your wee Scottish holiday. So we took a road trip from Germany over to Czech Republic for the Calvary race, and then obviously that was an Olympic distance race there, so I wasn't sure how it was going to go, and it definitely hurt, and it was a really, really tough course, but I was happy with how I ended the season, and then got home on a Tuesday, and then went on my little Scottish holiday on the Wednesday until for the rest of the week. So it was nice to sort of get back and just pack another bag and then just head off and go on a holiday straight away. And we did a lot of walking, which was quite nice. You said you had you had your head down through the COVID period, getting the training in, logging the miles. What do you think worked so well for you during that to create such a successful block of training? What do you think were the ingredients there, Georgia? Was it the lack of pressure or?
I think I just sort of took it back to an enjoyment level. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy training, because I do, but some days there's sessions like, you just don't want to get out the door, and it's really hard to get out the door, and you've got this really hard session that you really want to hit, but you get quite nervous for it, and you panic then because you think, well, what if I don't hit the times? What if I don't hit the right pace? So yeah, I think I just sort of took it back to an enjoyment level where I could just go out the door, and if I wanted to ride for 5 hours, I would ride for 5 hours, or if that day I had planned a ride but I didn't want to, then I wouldn't ride. So I just sort of took it back to that sort of level. And then with my running, we went back to sort of a winter-based training level. So I was doing a lot of tempo runs, and I quite like that sort of stuff. I'm very good at just doing one pace. I don't like jumping up to the faster paces. That's not me. So yeah, I was enjoying that, and I didn't really do many bike sessions. But I guess what I did some of the Zwift racing, and that was hard, but it was different, and it kept me motivated, knowing that, okay, 12 o'clock, you're doing this Zwift race, you've got to be there to do it. So setting little sort of reminders and little targets like that was good for me. And I did like to plan my week out, because when you're at home and you've not really got anyone to meet for training and you're just doing it all on your own, it's easy to just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And then it gets to the very end of the day and you think, I still haven't ridden my bike, I'm going to have to go on the turbo now. So I would plan out my week really and just say, okay, we'll get up, have breakfast, let's do gym at 9 o'clock, let's go for a run at 12 o'clock. And that really helped me. But yeah, I didn't do anything special during lockdown, to be honest. I just sort of did the training that I wanted to do. Yeah,
and it's been interesting, Georgia, to hear athletes and coaches talking about some of the surprising performances coming out of basic, uninterrupted, consistent training without a lot of top-end speed work. It's really quite fascinating in many cases. Yeah,
and I think there was no point in us doing a normal year, because all of that top-end speed work is what usually gets you injured. And so there was no point in doing that because I didn't need to. So, yeah, I think I wasn't sure how Hamburg was going to go. I wasn't expecting much of myself because I knew, like, I'd had a few little holidays and I'd been to down south to Cornwall as well with my family. So I did a few little holidays like that and had days off. So I really didn't feel completely ready to race, but I knew that I did want to race. So yeah, I didn't know how it was going to go. And I just, in my head, I would be really happy if I had a really good swim in Hamburg. And that's usually my focus for a race. I think if I have a really good swim, then I'm going to be happy, because that's my weakness. Swimming's definitely the weakness for me. So I know that if I have a good swim and I can be there, then the rest of the race is probably going to go okay. But yeah, as long as I had a good swim in Hamburg, I was going to be happy.
And okay, it did go, and you had a good swim. George, you're still on this theme of highs. There's something about British athletes creating great, memorable sporting / triathlon memories. In the case of Alistair and Johnny, your British teammates, but yourself and Jess Liam created quite another really memorable and I thought moment that really captured the spirit of sport, and that was in the Tokyo 2019 Olympic test event. And obviously yourself, Jess, you crossed the line together, and it really, I mean, about the only good thing I think that came from it was that it put triathlon on the world sporting news feed. Everywhere was reporting on it. But could you just explain, for anyone that didn't see that, what happened at the end of that race and what it did and didn't mean to you? Yeah,
so we did the test event, Tokyo test event on the Olympic course. They always do it a year out from the Olympics to get a feel of the course, so you know sort of what it's going to be like, and yeah, just sort of the mass around it, because it's a lot bigger venue and there's more people there. So we went over there, did that course, and about 2 weeks before the race, we had a holding camp out there just to acclimatise to the conditions, because it was incredibly humid and very hot. So through that whole 2 week period, me and Jess were together, and we were helping each other out in training, and she helped me out a lot as well, because my partner had literally just broke his neck the day I landed in Japan. So I was going through a little bit of a tough period there emotionally. And every single day I thought, I should go home. And Jess was sort of there for me, and she's not Mardy with me at all. She will just say, just shut up and get on with it. You're fine. You're staying out here. And there'll be no hugs from Jess at all. She's just straight to the point with me. So she was there for me the whole time, and we really helped each other out. And then, we went over to Tokyo to do the race. And through that whole race, really, me and Jess were looking out for each other. We were together in the front pack. It was quite a big group at first, and we didn't want that, because I don't think that felt like we were running as well as we weren't confident in our running. So we wanted to whittle that group down, and there were some really good runners in that front group. So Jess would put in these attacks, I would follow, and eventually we got the group down to, we probably half the group, so we got it down to a good size, and we were happy with that coming off the bike. And then coming off the bike, me and Jess sort of hit the front, and we're comfortable. We helped each other again with the aid stations, making sure we were drinking, making sure we were both feeling okay. Because it wasn't really so much about the result for us, it was about getting a feel for the whole environment of it and looking after ourselves, because we still had the grand final coming up. Me and Jess just pulled away from the field on the run, and it didn't feel right to be completely racing each other, because we had just done the whole build up to that together, the whole race. We'd looked out for each other, and we had done everything really well together. So we kind of just decided, let's just come in together. Yeah. Like we can't do any better than first and second. So there's no point in racing for this. It would be very different if it was something like a World Series and it was for points, which is obviously we would race then because it means something. Whereas this was, like I said, just about the feel for it and getting used to those conditions. So we just came in together, and then we got disqualified. I don't even know what the rule is now. You might be able to tell us.
I looked it up because I was just curious, and it was Rule 2.11.f. So, I mean, you're unlikely to remember that, particularly in the emotion of running to a heat-drenched Olympic test event, and it's athletes who finish in a contrived tie situation where no effort to separate their finish times has been made will be disqualified. So, what's not contextualised there is, as you just explained, your partner, who's an elite cyclist, had fractured his neck in a bike crash, right? Just before.
Just training. Yeah. Training ride.
And I recall you shared details at Malta. At Jersey, the Super League, that there was extensive injuries there for your partner, wasn't there? It was a nasty crash.
Mm-hmm, yeah, he had a halo on for 3 months, so it wasn't easy, and I was still racing during those times. Between sort of the test event and the grand final, I was kind of a full-time carer for him as well. My sister moved in to help out. It was quite a tough period. With me and Jess holding hands, it felt right for us, and we wouldn't do it again.
Well, I think you had the support of the world sporting community. I think, there's obviously technicalities and the sport has to do its job, but I think you won a lot of hearts that day. So, Josh, he's doing well now. He's back racing, back riding.
Yeah, no, he's doing well now. He's got quite a bit of movement in his neck, and he's back on his bike, and he's actually started running a bit as well. So he's no racing obviously this year for him because he's on a lower level team and hasn't been any racing. But no, he's doing a bit of running now. Actually, after watching the London Marathon, he's like, I think I could do a marathon. And I thought, I think everyone's thinking that today.
After the 22K loops or whatever it was?
Yeah, everyone probably thought, I could do a marathon. That's a challenge.
It's great that it inspires and it got held, but it did look quite different this year, looping around, didn't it? George,
yes.
Your early beginnings, before we throw over to some learnings. Early beginnings in preparing, I read that you always wanted to be a triathlete since you were at school. But I'm curious, what piqued your interest in the sport? Was it watching the success of your teammates in 2012, the Brownlees, or what was it?
Yes, well, so I've been I've probably swam since I was about 5 years old. I'm from a very sporty family. My dad was a runner for a GB runner, 800-metre track runner. My mum was a swimmer and a runner, sort of county level for both, national level as well for running. So we were always pushed sort of into doing different sports. So from a young age, we tried every sport out there. We weren't driven to any sport. They would just take us to any sports. We could try it out. If we didn't like it, we didn't go back. So we tried a few different ones. Dancing definitely wasn't for me. I wasn't good at dancing at all. We did horse riding for a while, which I enjoyed, but it took up quite a bit of time. So yeah, I swam from the age of 5 and never really stopped apart from a few injuries and stuff. And then I started running when I was about 13, 14 through high school. And I was definitely better in my running than I was in my swimming, but I was enjoying both quite a bit, and I didn't want to give either one of them up, but it was getting too difficult to balance them both and my education. So the natural thing to do was add another sport in, because that makes sense. So mum sort of suggested that I go along to the British Triathlon Trial Day, and I don't really remember ever wanting to do a triathlon, but then my dad found this PowerPoint presentation I made when I was 10 years old, I think, that said, when I'm older, I want to win an Olympic and Commonwealth medal in triathlon.
Wow.
And I don't even remember knowing much about triathlon then. So that was quite funny that you sort of pulled that out. So yeah, then I got onto the British Triathlon squad. It was called the British Triathlon. I think it was just the British Triathlon Talent Squad at the time or something. It's all changed now because it's just England Talent instead, not British Triathlon Talent. And then, yeah, it took me about 2 years to actually be able to stick in a bike group. I was constantly dropped. I was always there out of the water because of my swim background, but I was constantly dropped from bike groups. So, yeah, it took me a while. And then I decided to come to university in Leeds because of the triathlon that was the background here and the amount of athletes that were here doing triathlon. And then it all started there, really. And you get to train, you get to train alongside Olympic champs and world champs and Olympic medalists and Olympians in general, and you can't not be motivated, really, can you?
I mean, there's such a history there out of obviously Yorkshire, Leeds. When did you feel like you belonged in that company, or do you still feel a little bit like, are these results real? You're now the world champion. You've had World Triathlon Series titles in Leeds in 2019, medals in Edmonton and Madrid, World Duathlon Champ juniors in 2012. So when did you start to actually feel like I belong here?
I think I still see myself as that little university kid, and I still think I'm one of the younger ones, but I'm clearly not. I used to be called Baby G, and I got that title taken off me a few years ago because they realised I wasn't the baby of the group anymore because there was all the younger athletes coming up. So yeah, I guess I do fit in now, but still there's so many amazing athletes around me. I'm still so motivated and driven by them, and we're all very different in sort of how we approach sessions, and especially swimming. I'm probably one of the weakest ones in the pool, so it's for me, some sessions I get quite nervous, and going into them I'm always pushed in them. But yeah, I think I do. I've been here for 8 years now, so it's kind of home for me, and I'm quite comfortable with where I'm at.
and shifting from being comfortable and the highs we've just touched on, feeling like you're comfortable and accepted there in amongst your peers, to the dark days. We always ask featured performers on the show the darkest day in your athletic career to date. What would that be, and why?
I guess it would be in 2014, in the beginning of May. I had planned on doing my very first World Series, which was in London actually at that point. So they were still doing the London World Series because that was the year after that we had the grand final there. So I'd raced in London for the grand final as a junior at the end of 2013. And then I got a start for, I think I got a wild card actually, to race London World Series. And so obviously World Series, like the pinnacle as an athlete coming up, you're like, I need to be in the World Series. And then 2 weeks out from that race, I for about 6 weeks beforehand, I was getting a bit of foot pain, and we were sort of managing it. And every time my physio was manipulating it seemed to be reacting to what he was doing, and I felt much better. But it was still there, and it kept coming back. So eventually we were like, let's get it scanned, let's see what's going on. And then it came back later on that day that I got a navicular stress fracture. So I was obviously told then that was kind of it, that you'll be in a boot, you'll be crutches, and then we're going to have to offload for 6 weeks doing absolutely nothing. And I think in my head it didn't really hit me at the time. I thought, oh, that's fine, I'll still be able to race in 2 weeks. And I just didn't really think about it. And then that was a really dark period for the next 2 years, really. It took me to build back up to racing again. So yeah, I had 2 years out of racing. I had 16 months off of running, which is quite a long time. And it, like, even now, if I can only have a week off because of an injury, I think, how did I manage for 16 months? That's a long time. So yeah, we did try and manage the stress fracture for the first 6 weeks, just boot and crutches and offload completely. But it actually got worse, and it went 2/3 the way through the bone. So then we had to operate on it and get that pinned. And then about a year after that, I was getting back into training quite nicely. And then I had to actually have one of the pins removed because it started to push its way out of the bone. So I had that removed and a smaller one put in. So yeah, and as along the way as well, I also got another stress fracture in the same foot, my fourth Met. I think just from all the offloading, my bones were very, very weak at that point, and I was very lean and quite weak going before getting the navicular stress fracture. I was quite my levels. I was osteopenic at the time, so things weren't great, and it was kind of leading that way, I guess.
And I suspect, and you know, the results speak for themselves, that some of those early disappointments and the heartache of injury really, you know, around your bone health and, you know, fueling for the workload, etc. These key elements that you addressed with your healthcare team have then set you up for these successive good years of, you know, of building to the success you're now having. And I think of your colleague, current male world champion Vincent Lewis, who went through quite a few years of bone stress injuries before he sort of cracked the code, reducing his run volume, and he's had a great run since. You've got a great care team around you there, Georgia. We featured your physiotherapist Ollie Williamson on episode 239 just recently. The whole British team seems to be very synchronised and well engaged in the care. How important to your journey has having that great team around you been to your success?
Yeah, very important. I mean, I don't think I would be doing triathlon if I didn't have that support then. Everything was funded, and Ollie would drive me to all my appointments with the specialist that operated on me, and that was about a 3-hour drive there and a 3-hour drive back. So he would do all that with me. Me and Ollie spent a lot of time together. And I think what's great about the British Triathlon team is they all, like you said, they work very closely together. So if I mention one thing to my S&C coach, then that is then relayed on to the physios, to the doctors, to the nutrition side, to physiology side, psychology, and then they'll contact me and say, okay, how do we need to manage this? But yeah, I think the biggest thing I sort of learned during that whole period of being injured was how I needed to listen to my body and actually give my body what it needed. And even if I had a training session down for that day, because I never wanted to miss any training sessions, because you speak to any athlete, you feel terrible. You think, oh God, that's it, I've ruined it. And if you had a bad race, then you'd blame it on that one session that you missed, where it really probably didn't mean very much at all. But I was very bad at missing sessions and not listening to my body at all. Whereas through that injury, I realized, look, I need to listen to my body now, because this is what happens when you don't. And now I'm quite good at, I think there's a fine line between sort of, I guess, being soft and, you know, I really don't want to do this session today, and actually thinking, I'm really, really tired and I'm not going to get anything out of this session at all. So I may as well go back to bed and rest, because I'm going to get more out of that than going out and trying to do a hard run. So yeah, I think I'm very good at listening to my body now and giving it what it needs. Obviously, I'm still learning all the time, and I'll still pick up niggles and injuries and like illnesses as well. So I am still learning, but I'm definitely getting better at it.
It's such a great point you raise about there's that fine line between being soft and being just genuinely tired and unlikely to respond to the training stimulus. And I think it's been nice to see over the years and the decades that there is more of an acceptance of athletes listening to their body versus just being labelled as soft or lazy if you didn't arrive at the session. Do you use any data around that, or is it, the science clearly says that how you feel is the most important variable, but do you rely on any data, Georgia, in making those decisions, or is it purely subjective on how you're feeling?
No, I don't actually. I've never used heart rate. And I don't know why, really. I am very basic with my training, and it is all on how I feel. So, like I said, if I wake up on a run session day and I don't feel great, then I'll just text my coach and say, look, I don't feel good at all. I'm just going to go out for half an hour easy, or I'm not going to do anything at all. So, yeah, it's all sort of on actually how I feel. I know people are very different, but yeah, I've never used heart rate at all, and I don't really use power on my bike. I use it on my race bike, but I don't really use it on my training bike over the winter, just because I don't think I need to. As if I want to go out for a 4-hour ride and do 4 hours really, really hard and absolutely bury myself because I feel amazing, then that's what I'll go and do, because I'm just going to use it. But if I want to go out and do a 4-hour loop, but I'm riding that slow, it's going to take me 6 hours, then again, that's what I'll do. Yeah. So it is all on just how I feel. And because I do a lot of training on my own, it is easy for me to be able to do that because I'm not being pulled along by anyone else.
You're listening to Georgia Taylor Brown, 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion, on this week's Featured Performer episode. Support for today's show comes from Endure IQ. If you're ready to step up and take control of your training and performance goals, you must check out Endure IQ. Whether you're an athlete or a coach, Endure IQ aims to empower you with the knowledge, tools, and strategies to optimize your triathlon sports performance. Founded by Dr. Dan Plews, who you may remember from episode 213, where Dr. Dan shared around heat training and acclimation for the endurance athlete, a topic he's so well versed to speak around, having set the fastest ever age group time at Hawaii Ironman World Triathlon Championships in 8:24:36. Dan clearly knows a thing or two around acclimating for heat. Endure IQ brings you online courses in the practical application of low carbohydrate, high fat, training fundamentals, and of course, heat strategies. To get you started, Endure IQ will gift you $25 towards your first Endure IQ online purchase. Simply use the code BRADBEER, all uppercase, one word, at the checkout. Information is useful, but knowing how to use it is powerful. Endure IQ, hitting the sweet spot of performance, health, and enjoyment. Visit endureiq.com. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's award-winning online telehealth consultations, ideal for endurance athletes struggling with joint, bone, or tendon-related conditions. Our philosophy at Pogo Physio is very simple. We do not wish to see you for a session more than what you require. We just want to see you get back to your physical best and across what we call your physio finish line. To find out more about Pogo Physio's online award-winning consultations, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, World Triathlon Series 2020 champion, Georgia Taylor Brown, sharing on her career highs, lows, and of course, the many learnings. George, you're still on these learnings. We're going to challenge you in issuing your top 3 tips for female endurance athletes. Now, I know that's a broad question, but what would Georgia Taylor Brown's top 3 tips be for female endurance athletes, specific to females?
Yeah, going back to what I just said, really, listening to your body. especially as a female, because I think you really need to nail down on understanding the menstrual cycle. And I am 26 and I've only just learned really about the menstrual cycle. I'm still learning. There's a lot to it. And I think you have to cut yourself some slack and realize that we go through a lot over that month period. So it's quite important to be able to sit down and plan your training around your menstrual cycle, because there's different phases where you're going to feel stronger or you're going to feel weaker. So I think you need to utilize that and not just go along with the standard training program that's probably set for males and females. You need to really personalize your program. And like I said, just cut yourself some slack and think, I'm really not feeling great today. I've had a really rough week. I'm very emotional. I do not need this right now. So I think tailor your program and understand your menstrual cycle is definitely one tip. Another tip, I guess it's for female athletes and mostly aimed at younger athletes. I would say that when you are younger, don't get so carried away with, I know you get the sort of fear of missing out on competitions and training, but I missed quite a lot when I was younger. I had a lot of injuries and it didn't mean all that much. I know it's good to get the experience when you're younger of racing, but you don't need to be at every single race. And if you need to take a session off, then that's fine. Don't feel like you're missing out at all, because if you want to continue triathlon for your career, then you need to be careful when you are younger and not get thrown into it and try and do a senior athletes program when you're only maybe 15 years old. Just sort of take a step back and figure out what you need to do, and also realize that, again, going back to the tip number one I just said, we're all so individual, and you do need to realise you need an individualised programme. And then I guess just have fun with it is the third tip. That's what I always say, and I do triathlon because I love it. I enjoy doing it. It makes me happy. And the day I wake up and I think, triathlon's not for me anymore, then I won't do it, because it's not making me happy, and I know that I can't do triathlon forever. So the time that I have got doing triathlon, I want that to be a happy time and a time that I'm really enjoying, and I'm not just doing it because I might be good at it. I'm doing it because I really enjoy it.
Gosh, there's some really great learnings there and sharings, Georgia. Have fun with it. I mean, so powerful. Avoid FOMOs, for young athletes. Well, you didn't phrase it like that. That's what I've written down here. Don't think every race is critical. As you said, you've missed a lot of time over the years, as does any athlete really chasing their best with injury, and it's still turning out just fine. And such a great learning that top one, understanding the menstrual cycle for female athletes. And I think, as a health professional, it's very reassuring to see much more awareness, much more conversation around a female athlete's needs on the topic of cycles. It's so important for health and performance. And just specifically, as you said, there's times when you feel weak and strong. Can you give any sort of examples of how you that might influence your training?
So I guess some run sessions I've done where the week before I've had an amazing session and it feels really easy. The running fast just feels so easy and you think I could do this all day. And then it might be I do that on the Tuesday, and then the Saturday I have another run session and I feel heavy and I feel like I'm towing a bus and everything feels wrong about it. So when it comes to that, when I'm having those sessions where I'm not feeling great and I'm feeling really heavy, all I think in my head is just relax today. Don't try and push through it. Don't try and fight it. Just relax. If you're not going to hit the pace, that's fine. It's still time on feet, is how I like to call it. So as long as I'm still doing the session, I don't need to hit the pace. I just need to stay relaxed. And I guess when you are feeling like that, just bring it back to concentrate on one thing. So concentrate on your technique instead. So if I'm not feeling great and I'm not hitting times, I'll think, okay, let's use this time to think about really relaxing my shoulders, bringing them back, not letting them rise up when I'm panicking and getting all worked up about it. So yeah, I think those things for me. And then I might have like sessions in the gym as well where sometimes I feel quite strong and I could just keep lifting heavy weights and adding more on, and then other days I don't feel as strong and I feel really wobbly and a bit weak, so I'll take the weights off really and maybe just do body weight those days.
Yeah, great. And you're back into your first week of training after your wee little holiday to Scotland. What does strength and conditioning look like for you in this early stage of the season?
So I will do gym sessions. My gym sessions are on a Monday and a Friday, so I've been to the gym today. And we'll sort of gradually introduce things. At the start, it's a lot of mobility work and just getting my shoulders moving again, because I get a lot of problems around my shoulders and my neck. So it's getting all those moving again, just all the fine, tiny little movements in them. And then a lot of glute work as well, because my glutes haven't been doing all that much while I've been sat on my bottom. So yeah, getting my glutes fired up again. And then I'll usually do things like single leg squats, and then deadlift, split squats. But at the start of the season, I'll do most stuff body weight or keep the weights quite low, just to feel the movements again and get everything right. And then we'll start adding the weights in, and then we'll build that over the winter. And then when we start to hit the race season, the weights will come off again, and I won't be pushing as heavy weights, because I'm often left quite sore and stiff the day after a gym session in the winter.
And Georgia, the strength and conditioning work you've done over the years, that's no doubt had a big effect on, making your body more resilient, able to absorb the training loads that you need, as opposed to the history with some of those bone stress injuries you mentioned. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, when I got the navicular stress fracture, that was the thing I spent the most of my time doing, was in the gym with my S&C coach, and we had quite a big program. My sessions were about an hour and a half long, and everyone else is finished in about 50 minutes. So I would always be there the longest. And we did some fun stuff as well. I did a little bit of boxing, single leg. I either sat down or stood up and balanced on one leg, and had my navicular leg on a stool or something. And it was just a bit of fun to just mix things up, really. And also to get my heart rate up, because I wasn't doing any exercise at all. So it was nice to actually get my heart rate up and sweat. But we spent a lot of time in the gym just doing heavy weights, really, and just lifting and just getting strong around my bones, just to protect them, because I wasn't strong at all. I was very weak. I was running really well, because I was very light, and I was running really well, but I was very weak. I wasn't great on the bike either. So those months that I spent in the gym definitely helped me, and it got me to, we sort of started a clean slate, I guess, and then built up, and it's definitely helped me avoid injuries as well over the years, just strengthening everything in my body.
You're listening to Georgia Taylor Brown on this Featured Performer episode, 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion, sharing on her career highs, lows, and the many learn-ins. If you missed last week's episode, it was part 2 of an expert edition with Ollie Williamson, Senior Physiotherapist for British Triathlon and the English Institute of Sport, on the topic navigating triathlon and endurance injuries. Here's a snippet of episode 240.
I think if I was to give one piece of advice, I'd say the emphasis upon strength and conditioning and being able to build up your physical qualities enough in that environment to do what you want to do with your training. It all comes back to this training availability discussion that we had at the start. If someone's physical qualities are there to meet the demands of what they want to do, and then the caveat I suppose into that is recovery as well, which is the other point I'd like to make, your training availability will massively improve if the physical qualities are there to handle what you're doing. And I think a lot of endurance athletes obviously love to train. They're training for long hours, and obviously with full-time jobs as well as trying to train, and trying to fit everything in is a real challenge. And I massively admire recreational athletes who are high-level recreational athletes of that, or Ironman or 7.3 athletes. I just don't know how to find the time.
To enjoy the full conversation with Ollie Williamson, and you'll need a pen and paper for plenty of great takeaways and learnings, be sure to jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy the show from, and whilst there, explore the archives dating right back to episode 1, featuring surf lifesaving Ironman champion Ali Day. For now, let's jump back with this week's feature performer, Georgia Taylor-Brown, 2020 World Triathlon Series Champion, sharing on her career, highs, lows, and many learnings. Georgia, are you ready for the performance round?
No, but let's go.
Rapid fire questions. Here we go. Training session most disliked.
A Tuesday morning hard swim session with a VO2 swim session, and I absolutely hate it.
And you might be doing, what, hundreds or?
Yeah, it's usually hundreds, yeah, but a lot of them. We usually do about 2K worth of VO2 effort, and it's too much. I don't enjoy it at all.
Training session most loved?
I enjoy a Saturday morning run session, and that's when we'll usually be on the grass and we'll do long reps that are kind of at race pace. So that is what I'm really good at. I could do race pace all day, but any faster than that, hate it.
Pre-race meal, what fuels you on race day, Georgia?
On race day, so in the morning, I will either, it depends on what time the race is, but I'll either have a bowl of rice with some yogurt in there and a banana and honey. So a bit of a weird combination, but rice is quite easy on the stomach, and every athlete loves rice. Or I'll have porridge, and then I'll have a bit of a carb drink throughout the day, and maybe a little bit more rice before I race. So a lot of rice.
A lot of rice. Bedtime and morning time. What does that look like in a normal week for you?
Bedtime is around 10, 10:30. I'm a bit of a faffer, so it takes me a while to get ready for bed. I'm always faffing around the house. Morning, I wake up around 6 a.m. usually. Usually my little dog Alfie's licking my face and rattling his collar, because he uses his collar as a weapon because he knows it's loud and rattles around.
Gets your attention. Georgia, who's the athlete you most admire and why?
Oh, who is the athlete I most admire? That's quite tough. Oh God, there's so many. Does it have to be a triathlete or any?
It's wide open.
God, that's actually really tough. You know, I love gymnastics. I'm going to say Simone Biles because I absolutely love gymnastics, and I just think they're incredible athletes.
Yeah, and very different to triathletes in so many ways, aren't they? You know, it's And toughest competitor you've ever raced against, who is it and why? Jess
Liam. I feel she can just put her body through a lot, and just pushes to a whole new level, and it's incredible.
And obviously British teammate and training mate there. Yes.
So yeah, she can just push herself, just keep going and going and going, and I just find it incredible. I don't know how she does that to herself.
Is there a mantra, Georgia, that you use when you're training or racing? Regular one? Some self-talk?
Is there a mantra? I guess I usually like the mantra, difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations, because it's been quite a tough journey. It's not been the easiest of roads or the straightest of roads for me. It's been quite bumpy and windy. I quite like that one, because if it's worth it, then it's gonna hurt.
Difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. Wow.
Yeah.
Best recovery tip, Georgia?
Best recovery tip is probably, as soon as you sort of get through the door, I quite like making a smoothie or just a protein shake, and then drink that, get in the shower, and then get on the sofa and read a book, watch a movie.
I thought you were going to say make your famous sourdough, but no, it was make a shake. One word to
I probably would make a sourdough, but if I was to tell other people what to do, it would be to sit on the sofa, but you won't find me doing that.
I did hear you share on the World Triathlon Series podcast that you had conditioned yourself to a bit more reading throughout COVID, so that might plant some good seeds. One word to describe your racing style, Georgia, what would it be?
My racing style, relaxed. I don't plan the race at all. I just go into it because I am ready to race and I want to race, and I just go with the flow, really, and I just try not to panic whatever happens. As long as I'm giving it my absolute all that day, then I can't be upset with the finishing result.
There's a lot of wisdom in that approach. Is that something that you feel like you've had since you've been competing at a high level, or you've just had to learn that skill because when you're uptight and anxious and what was that word you used? Faffing around.
Yeah,
it doesn't go well? Or have you just always by disposition been that relaxed athlete, do you think?
No, when I was younger, I got very nervous before races. I would feel sick and be that close to just pulling out because I was like, I can't do this to myself, I can't do it. But then after I had my big injury in 2014, I realised that there's a lot more to life than triathlon. And I'm doing triathlon because I really love it and I enjoy it. I'm not saving lives. It doesn't mean all that much. I'm just doing it because I really enjoy it. So I kind of then approached races differently and thought, why am I getting that nervous about races? It is just a race. And I'm doing this because I really want to do it. So as long as I give it my absolute best, then I'm happy with that, even if I come last. As long as I've tried my very, very hardest and I can really believe that I have, then I'm happy.
So that perspective of what the race really means in life's bigger picture, in the context of life, it's almost like an anti-anxiety medication.
Yes.
I recall as a junior triathlete getting so nervous as well that I'd want to vomit and feel like I couldn't even get to the start line, and then snapping out of it when I thought, I can't keep doing this. Georgia, how would you describe, final few questions in the performance round, how would you describe being in the zone?
Being in the zone, I don't know, that's quite hard. So I would say that I'm probably fully committed to the race when I'm in the zone. So I usually get in the zone on the pontoon when we've had our final little chats, everyone's lined up, and then we say, all right, good luck, girls. And then that's it. Then I sort of look ahead. I do a bit of a wiggle around with my arms and stuff. And then I'm ready and I'm ready to go. And then I think the first boy in the swim, I'm probably in the zone. And then after that, I'm out the zone and it's whatever happens. And I'm just going to follow everyone else.
And when was the last time you were in the zone?
The last time I was in the zone was probably Hamburg, the world champs in Hamburg this year. I'd say Calvaveria is a bit more relaxed, and I wasn't really feeling that race at all. So probably Hamburg, I was definitely in the zone on the pontoon.
And final question in the performance round here, Georgia. What's the hardest session you've ever done? Can you remember an epic training session? There's been a lot. It stands out.
Yeah, me and Jess we were doing some swim to bike workouts, and they were quite tough. Just, you feel horrific on the bike when you first get on. So we do maybe 300 meters threshold and then straight into, say, like a 3-minute bike effort on the turbo trainer, and they're quite hard. It really, really hits you. And then it's also getting back in the pool then to do another 300 hard, and your legs just feel like jelly and everything is just weak. So those are quite tough sessions. But I'd say for me, any swim session's pretty tough.
Sounds like good training for Super League Triathlon Series. Well done, Georgia. You are out of the performance round. Georgia, if you could boil everything you've learned across your career to date, of which there's still a lot ahead of you, into one single piece of advice to help listeners of the show perform at their physical best, if it was just one bit of advice, what would that one bit of advice be?
I'd just say enjoy everything you do and surround yourself with people that really push you and are going to help you achieve your dream. And yeah, if you've got that dream that you're really aiming for and you really want to get there and it's worth it to completely give everything you've got, then go for it and just make sure you're enjoying yourself along the way, because there's no point in doing something if it doesn't make you happy.
Gosh, that theme of enjoyment, happiness, it's really just weaving its way through here, Georgia. Well done. Physical challenge for the week. Every guest issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Georgia Taylor-Brown's physical challenge to listeners going to be?
I think you need to do so it was the 40th London Marathon recently, so I want you to do 40 burpees straight on over the weekend as well, maybe on Sunday when the marathon was. Get up, do 40 burpees, and that's my challenge.
Well, I like that because it's very specific and quite achievable for most. So we're going to call it the Georgia Taylor-Brown's 40 burpee Sunday challenge. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. So if you take on, these shows go live on a Thursday evening. So if you are digesting this episode, take on that challenge on Sunday and let Georgia know. Tag it in, get a bit of video evidence, and Georgia on that. Where can we find you online, follow your journey as you head into 2021, with what should be hopefully the Olympic year? Where can we follow your journey?
I am on Instagram and Twitter as Georgia TV, so it's quite easy. I'm not on TikTok. That's the other one, isn't it? I never got that, so I don't even have the app or anything. But I do see videos now and again pop up, which are quite funny. But I spend too much time on my phone anyway, so I feel like it would be a bad thing to get that app.
To add another one. Well, I don't have it either. I've never looked at it. Like you see videos of viral videos, but haven't figured it out either. So don't look for Georgia Taylor-Brown on TikTok, but do find you on Instagram or Twitter. Georgia, certainly wish you all the best for everything ahead for you, the upcoming Olympic year and beyond. And thank you for your contribution to the Physical Performance Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust you enjoyed Georgia's share-ins. If you did, then please reach out and let Georgia know. You'll find Georgia readily available over on social media, Instagram at Georgia TB. And of course, keep tagging in the show at Physical Performance Show with any podsies, a screenshot of the episode you're enjoying at any time. Don't forget to jump over and follow the Physical Performance Show now on Facebook, and you'll find me over on social at Brad_Beer for any feedback or guest recommendations for the show that you may have. Be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au for the show notes and any associated resources. And please do yourself a favour if you are an endurance athlete or coach looking to get the most out of your long course triathlon performance. Be sure to take up this week's show sponsors, the Physical Performance Show offer of $25 off an Endure IQ online course. You'll find courses on the practical application of low-carb, high-fat, training fundamentals, and heat strategies. Endure IQ was founded by very popular prior Expert Edition guest, Dr. Dan Plews, current world record holder for an age group athlete with an 8:24 in Kona, Hawaii at the World Ironman Triathlon Series Championships in 2018. And be sure to jump back to episode 213 featuring Dr. Dan Plews on heat training and acclimation for the endurance athlete. Simply use the coupon code BRADBEER, all one word, uppercase, at the EndureIQ.com. Check out for any of those fantastic courses and learning opportunities. Now, a huge thanks to those that have taken time to leave a rating and review over on iTunes for the Physical Performance Show. If you've been enjoying the show, the highs, lows and learnings from the guests, then please consider taking a moment and leaving a brief review. It certainly helps the visibility of the show, as does subscribing, which ensures the show lands in your earbuds each and every Thursday as we go live. Massive thanks to the great folk who make the show possible week in, week out. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and Matthew Olding on all things show graphic design. Now, if you missed our recent live stream event with Shona Halson, world-renowned recovery expert, Recovery Essentials for Optimal Performance, then don't despair. We're making the live stream available for post-live stream access for the same ticketed price of $49. Those who enjoyed the live stream on the 24th of October took away some absolutely amazing information from Shona, who has worked at the cutting edge of sport worldwide. Shona Halson was the head of recovery and the director of athletic recovery across Australia's Olympic team at the last 3 Olympic Games, Beijing, London and Rio. During the live stream, Shona shared around the fundamentals of recovery periodization and adaptation, sleep science, along with some terrific myth busting. Now, I will never approach my recovery the same again after being on the live stream, obviously. So be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au/Dr. Shona Halson live stream, and there you'll gain access to all the materials, including PDF copies of all the presentations. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, you are in for a learning treat, and we keep the British theme going with another featured British guest who I was introduced to via episode 240 and 241, expert edition guest Ollie Williamson of the English Institute of Sport. Now, next week's guest is none other than Phil Burt. Phil Burt was the head physiotherapist at British Cycling and Team Sky for 12 and 5 years respectively. Across that time, the teams gained more than 30 Olympic gold medals, 5 Tour de France victories, and more than 100 World Championship victories. Phil Burt has worked with the likes of Bradley Wiggins, Laura Trott, Chris Hoy, Geraint Thomas, Chris Froome, and the list goes on. And next week's topic of exploration will be all things bike fit and cycling fundamentals. If you are a competitive, recreational, or every now and then endurance athlete who jumps on a bike, you do not want to miss Phil Burt next week. It's an incredible learning opportunity. He shares some top learnings, so be sure to be tuning in next week for Phil Burt. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.